So today we're going to talk about being sick and should you train, and if you should train, what should you do? So one thing I've always talked about in this channel is the idea that I always want to cover subjects that I'm going through because I think it's important because I have a first-person perspective. I'm not speaking from past experience or like future experience. Instead, I'm speaking from right here, right now. So yesterday I had a 100-degree fever and I had strep throat. I'm sick. I'm not training. So I want to talk about why you should train, if you should train when you're sick, and what are some kind of rules that go along with it. The first question I always ask myself for when I'm sick is, are you contagious? And if the answer is a yes, then the final answer is stay home. Don't go into the gym. Because personally, it irritates me. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine if people are sick and they show up at the gym, because the gym is supposed to be like the best hour of the day for somebody, and it's not going to be a great hour if that's where they, get strep throat from Jacob Heppner or whatever, if that's where they get a sickness from. Like, no one wants that. And so if you're contagious, stay home. Very easy answer. If you're not contagious, then you might be able to go to the gym. And then from there, I ask my second question. And my second question is, do you actually want to train? Sorry. Do you actually want to train? And it's not so simple as a yes or a no question. So you might say, yes, I'd like to train. That's why I'm here. But it really comes down to what is your reason for why you want to train. And there's kind of a positive part to it and a negative part to it. And the negative part to it is, yes, I want to train because I'm afraid of losing what I've gained. And I'm afraid that this one day is going to put me behind by a lot. And that's probably not super true. You probably won't lose a lot losing a full day of training. But if you do train and your sickness gets worse because of it, then you lose more days on top of it. So usually if I ask myself, do I want to train today because I'm sick? And I say, yes, I want to train only because I just don't want to lose out what I've gained, then I usually don't train. I stay home. If my yes instead is, yes, I want to train because I think I can get something out of today, I think there can be a positive impact, and I think I will progress because of it, then yes, I will go train. And that's usually the two questions I ask. So if you've answered, no, I'm not contagious, and yes, I'd like to train because I think I can get something out of this, then usually that's the reason I start to go to the gym and head to the gym to train. Why should I train when I'm sick? Like, why do we even answer this question? It shouldn't just always be a no. And this is just my personal answer. Like, this is just me. I'm not a doctor. There's no data behind this. I mean, people can disagree with me all you want. But my concept is usually when I'm sick, and I'm not talking like, for lack of better terms, I'm not talking about stomach sickness. If your stomach's sick, just stay home. No one wants to be around you, and you don't want to go to the gym and spend the whole time in the bathroom. So if your stomach's sick, stay home. But like if I have like a cough or a fever, maybe not even fever, I have a cough or like a headache or stuff, and I just have a bunch of stuff I'm coughing up, kind of like what I'm doing right now, I will usually go to the gym and want to train because I find there's a benefit that it allows me to kind of clear up my respiratory system. And it allows me to kind of, for lack of better terms, cough all that crud up and get it out of my system. Like, I mean, will it naturally come out of my body just sitting there on the couch and doing work on the computer? Yes. Will it come out a little bit faster by doing burpees? I hope so. But that's kind of my reasoning for why I train. I think sometimes it speeds it up a little bit. Now, obviously, doctors can disagree with me. Now, I'm not talking about every kind of sickness, right? I'm just talking usually about like the common cold is what I'm kind of comparing it to. And then when I have the common cold, sometimes I will come in the gym and do a workout or something like that. So now I want to kind of get into my recommendations as it pertains to if I'm sick and if I go to the gym. And these are kind of the rules I follow when I go to the gym. And this is learned over the course of like 6 years because I was stupid in the beginning. My number one reason is be careful. When you're sick, you're usually pretty weak. And because your body's really weak, sometimes like stuff's not firing really fast. Your synapses aren't firing. Like your core is pretty weak. Your body's just kind of weak and kind of floppy. Sorry, my dog's barking. And so therefore, you have the ability, your CNS is kind of fried, so you have the ability to injure yourself. So you have to be really careful when you go in there. So you need to, from my perspective, what I do things, my rule of thumb is I don't do anything heavy. I usually do not touch a barbell because I don't need that. And I've found that if I'm sick, I touch a barbell, it makes it worse. And sometimes you can pop things out of place that don't need to be popped out of place. As an example, I had actually traveled to Nepal many years ago for YWAM. We were like distributing Bibles across the Himalayas. And I came back and I was kind of sick near the end of that trip. I came back home and immediately did a workout and it had bar muscle-ups in it. And you're thinking to yourself, you can't injure yourself doing bar muscle-ups. There's no barbell. Like there's hardly anything, just like a swing and a catch. True, except for I was swinging, caught myself kind of weird on the top of the bar and dislocated a rib. It's stuff like that, like stuff that's never happened before in my life, but then you get me sick and your body's a little bit weak and it allows that to happen, I think. So be careful when you're sick. Your CNS is a little bit fried. I usually stay away from a lot of any barbell movement and anything I think can injure myself to any degree whatsoever. So it's usually very light. The next rule of thumb is I drink a lot of water. I think it's really important and can't be overstated. Number 3 is the concept that I stay away from movements that have a lot of delayed onset muscle soreness. So any movement that affects me personally in such a way where I'm sore for many days, when I'm not sick, I stay away from those movements in general when I am sick. So for me, those are like GHD sit-ups and those are lunges. If I do a lot of GHD sit-ups when I'm not sick, I will have soreness for a few days after that. And so when I am sick, it will just make it infinitely worse. And so I stay away from lunging, stay away from GHD sit-ups, and I stay away from any movement that gives me DOMs later on if I'm not sick because it's going to make it bad when you are sick. The last thing I really want to talk about when it comes to should you train is the concept of how you define working out or how you define training, right? So a lot of people look at training and think, or looking at working out and think, okay, well, working out in terms of CrossFit means I have to do Fran, or working out in terms of CrossFit means I need to be laying on the floor, writhing in pain, cursing my mother's name and hating my life. And I think the definition of working out or training needs to be addressed, especially when you're sick, but also especially when you're not sick. Because I think people tend to think that way, like I have to be in complete pain to make it a successful training situation. And that's not true. You can get just a good training situation in by not writhing in pain on the floor as you can by writhing in pain on the floor. And I think you need to define the word workout and training adequately. And I think workout and training needs to be defined as a way where you as a person progress in a positive way. You accomplished something or you got better at something that day. So yes, you can come in every day and do Fran and hate your life and get really good at Fran. But if you don't have good front rack mobility, if you don't have a good hollow arch, if you don't have a good squat mobility, like you're not going to get better at Fran by doing Fran. You need to take it back a little bit of a step and look at almost the elements, like the atoms. What makes up CrossFit? Well, those are the small pieces, the atoms that make it up. And so you look at those elements and say, okay, well, if I can't do a thruster very well, why not? Well, is it because my front rack blows or is it because my squat blows? And if that's the case, then you take it back and say, okay, well, I'm going to do some mobility in my squat, do some mobility in my front rack. This is a long point to say that people tend to think that they have to do Fran to get a good workout in, when in actuality, doing Fran over and over and over may not improve your Fran time, but if you improve your front rack mobility, or you improve your squat mobility, or you improve your hollow arch, well, that might improve your Fran overall. So shouldn't that be considered working out and training? And so if you take that back even further and look at being sick, then you ask yourself, okay, if I'm sick and I really want to stay away from CNS items and I want to stay away from, my CNS or delayed onset muscle soreness and lifting heavy weights, then some good things to do when you're sick is improving mobility in certain areas, is to improve stretching, is to do some mobility in your front rack, is to do some mobility in your overhead positioning, is to address those things that normally as athletes when we come in the gym, we don't normally address. The last thing I want to talk about is the idea of something that I've done in the past when I'm sick. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to ask, okay, would you give us an example of what you do if you're sick? Now to clarify, I did not do this because today I was busy all day getting stuff done. But one thing that I have done in the past when I'm sick is very easy to do, very easy to clean up, is burpees and rowing, right? I can wipe down a rower, I can wash on the floor if I need to, if I'm that sick, and it's very easy to do. There's no weight. It's not going to shock my CNS. It's very easy to clean up, like I already said. And so I usually do burpees and rowing. And usually how I do that is, I can't remember what the actual workout's called. I think it's from Ben Bergeron. I think it's called Fortitude. I will pick a number of burpees and then match it with that same number of rowing, and it depends on how I feel that day. And I will do that alternating minutes for 30 minutes. So Fortitude is technically 30 minutes of alternating minutes between 15 cal row and 15 burpees. Now, I'm not saying I'm sick and I do that workout. I just pick a number. So Today, if I'm not feeling super great, I might do 10. If, I'm feeling better, maybe I'll do 12. Just kind of got to play it by ear, but that's usually my go-to workout to do when I'm sick. Is it's very easy to do. I know there's not going to shock my body, my CNS, there's no DOMs, and it's a go-to workout for me. So guys, I hope that answers your questions on should you be training when you're sick. We covered the idea of should you actually go to the gym, and then we got into, okay, now that you're going to the gym, what are kind of my rules of thumb for going there? How do you define training? How do you define working out? And what is an example of a workout I use? Hopefully that answers your question. I know we are in the middle of flu season, and I've already got it, so I'm going to pass it on to you suckers through this mic. Take that. That's for you. Anyways, guys, have a great day. Talk to you guys later. See ya.